I hit for Cerber. I may die for Cerber. I've been gone too long, my friends. I would apologize, but it really was Adeline's fault this time! I've left you all in a bad way. That was a dick move, for which I'm sure Adeline apologizes for. She should, if you ask me. I'll explain everything in due time, but just know I've been quite literally locked up for more than a year during this haze of a lockdown. Yes, Cerber was fully operational during these trying times, but only because the paranormal weren't capable of catching COVID. Alistair is to thank for that. He may not be firing off on all cylinders, but no one can match his alchemical ability. Back to where we left off. This fellow named Tim W. was in my back seat, destined for my very own home address. I can still feel the searing rage poking holes in my fleshy but fragile gut. Tim had switched to a mask that has covered his entire head, adorning what I assumed to be filtered ear holes, making it easier for him to hear me. Logically, he would have put that on to begin with. Excuse the absolute fuck out of me, I snarled through gritted teeth. But what exactly are you playing at? And don't play that annoying "it was foretold" bullshit. I've been around long enough to know you're about to feed me the same tired-ass line that the rest of you, he said with a soothing coo of diplomacy. I'm not here to rustle your jimmies. I'll keep it short and sweet. Adeline contacted me for your sake. She said you haven't been sleeping well since your encounter with Mari. I've been instructed to accompany you home and alleviate your waking woes. I am melatonin. Yeah, I said it, and so would you. The Sandman? I was able to completely nullify his willingness to hold a pleasant tone by saying this. I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit pleased with myself. If the more pedestrian idiom is easier for you to comprehend of my purpose, then go off. Greasy hipster's mad. Something about pigs and lipstick. I let out a small cackle. Rage deflection, then comedy deflection. Your complexity must be wild at party. I couldn't see myself, but I'm certain he rolled his eyes at me. Okay, alright, I'm sorry. My attempt to quell the proverbial swerving off XD track. So you're gonna, throw some particles at me, and boom, sleep? Particles. Sure. Let's just rest on that one. Hey, I really do apologize. I absolutely meant to be rude, I'll admit. But if it's any consolation, it's not aimed at you in particular. Sleep is an issue for me, but holy hell, it's low on the list of shit that's making me actually insane. Noted. He softened. You can sit up front. Wait, you're not gonna leak or anything, right? Believe it or not, I meant that. No, I'm well contained. He responded without a trace of sour inflection. Instead of just allowing the time to pass by in comfortable silence, I chose to pry instead. He's obviously close with Adeline to some degree, which means I may strike pay dirt on information that isn't so easily obtained from the tight lips of the two ladies I consider to be my closest friends. That might sound bad, but if I wasn't completely certain that Adeline and Charisse would protect me with their lives, I may not be so tolerant of that notion. While finding the best way to just casually ask for classified information, Tim spoke first. I know I've spoiled the fun on you fumbling your way to guessing what I am by just directly telling you preemptively. But surely you have more to ask. I won't lie, guys. That sort of direct initiative threw me way off. I tapped my fingers on the steering wheel, pursing my lips at not only being taken off guard, but where do I even start? Yeah, okay. I guess I should start by asking why you're so willing to volunteer information without any sort of push from me. Offering information and swearing its secrecy has just one demotivating factor. Keeping and sharing information is not incentivized on either side. I don't get it. Meaning Adeline didn't exclusively tell me to keep my mouth shut, which I assume to mean that I'm not obligated to. I'm not sure what it is you want from me to create this incentive. Grab the bricks and put my wall back up. It's never this easy. I want the button. I knew exactly what he was talking about. He wanted my special button that was a present from Mateo. My mysterious, seemingly get-out-of-paranormal jail-free button. The button that could potentially lead me to a far greater plethora of information that Tim couldn't even measure up to. That button. No, I whispered. While I didn't necessarily have a plan for this specific device, it wasn't going to change my mind at all. At all costs. I needed to hang on to that. Tim didn't respond, and I pondered my next line. It felt ominous to say no, but that was the only option here. Why do you want it? Why do you? Good the shit, you and I both know that you could easily knock me out and just steal it away from me. Why bother asking nicely in the first place? And what good would it do you? Adeline owns the plague, just ask for a roundtable meeting or whatever. You have it on you? Tim asked incredulously. Fuck, I messed up. Always, I tried to recover. I keep this thing on me just in case another entity makes goo-goo Big Mac eyes at me. I know my reason is a sound reason, and I feel like the kid who got busted wearing his shirt inside out. You really are the reputable idiot. Tim was bracing his hands against my door and sent to divide like he was anticipating high-velocity impact. So he's a dramatic, greasy hipster. Maybe to you it's a bad idea, but I can't fling dust at a foreseeable threat to make a grand escape. Assuming I'm lucky enough to even have that foresight. I tried reasoning. He paused and stared at me for a moment. I'm not sure if I broke the Sandman or if he was processing what I felt to be a rational decision. He sat back, putting his hands on his lap. I get it. That was pretty foolish of you to disclose that with me. He seemed to be furthering his calculations. Fool, village idiot, sure. However, I'm more alive than a good half of the passengers that I transport. So obviously, I'm doing something right, I replied, breaking my arm, patting myself on the back. By the skin of your teeth, I hear. He replies with a gentle jest. Could just be dumb luck. Extra dumb luck. I've met luck. That ain't it. You're right to give yourself credit. It's warranted braggadocio. Well, thanks. That's probably one of the nicest things I've heard. Ever. Far be it from trust that motivated you to tell me you're carrying a very desired object on your person. Regardless, I'll play quid pro quo with you. Ask me what you want. Seems fair. I like this guy. Fairness isn't something the paranormal have to take seriously when dealing with mortals, since the scales are so biased against us. Paranormal don't play fair and often don't feel compelled to because of just how low we ride in their food chain. Cool. Yeah. Okay. What is a Wendigo? A Wendigo is a very general term for a specific agenda. Do you have a specific scenario it pertains to? Yeah, me. When Mario was playing that prank on me, an uninvited Wendigo decided to join in the fun too. To my knowledge, I've never interacted with one personally, and after seeing the unease on Mary's face when telling Adeline about it, I gather it wasn't to play hot potato with the human either. Interesting. What did it do exactly? I promise I'm not dodging questions, despite your reputation being an idiot. You're known as more of a lovable idiot, one that seems to not tolerate but enjoy working with us, inherently making me care for your inquisition and situation. Bear with me, but I'm going to help you the best that I can. How? What do you mean? I asked nervously. Well, without trying to shake up your comfort, I'll be honest. You should really be dead after that incident. And I'll be honest with you, that isn't the first or fifth time I've heard that. Not to radiate big dick energy, but that specific truth has lost its intensity. I hear what you're saying, but there aren't many other entities more vengeful and cruel than Wendigos. They're extremely volatile, callous, and angry beings. In fact, the plague has an extremely low tolerance for Wendigos and almost always exterminates without provocation. Sounds like you would have a better idea as to why one's crossing paths with me than I do. I know I'm not the most palatable individual, but I can almost ensure that I haven't done anything to deserve that kind of malicious attention. I highly doubt that. The only way you walked away alive is because you were spared for some reason. If this was something of a coincidence, you would have been killed just for bearing witness. You're alive because it willed you to be. Delightful. Any guess as to why that could be? Sadly, no. But you're really in trouble. You're supposed to help me sleep, remember? I reminded him. The idea of blind rage finding its way into my life with seemingly no merit was making me nauseous. And I will. But being so casual about this is extremely irresponsible. Yeah, I understand. What have I done? No, really, what did I do? I've said some tone-deaf things, sure. I've even made myself an easy target, but something about Tim's plight was really unsettling. I've seen entities aghast before, but never scared. Especially not for me. Well, this is me. I pull up to my house and point at the door, gesturing an invitation to enter. Tim nods and we both make our way up the path. There's something timidly modest about him. He walks with his head down, hands in his pockets, and his back maintains the shape of a soggy banana. He has the stride of someone who gets bullied regularly, something I can somewhat relate to. I unlock the door and ask him to remove his shoes. He doesn't ask why, and just removes his duct-tape sneakers. At least I didn't have to explain my bug phobia to him. That's a relief. Can I get you something? How long are you going to be around? I have water and that static fruit beverage everyone loves. That's alright. I won't be here long. If you're concerned with being in the vulnerable state of slumber, I can dispatch someone to protect you. They wouldn't be human, but they don't feed off them either. So no conflict of interest. You're a planner, huh? I asked, a little embarrassed at how much help he assumed I would need. Should I need that much help? Or is he just, extra cautious? I am. I'm also a fan of eliminating potential confrontation. From what you were saying before, it sounds like this thing doesn't take the easy way out by attacking without sport first. Fair point. I think I've discovered something about you. You're not stupid. You're just brave and careless for your own life. Tim said with a factual tone rather than an accusatory one. You might be right. Maybe I'm just trying to approach things with logic before emotion. I haven't tried logic yet, and emotion usually bites me in the ass. Well, tell me how that works for you. He pats me on the shoulder in a chummy way. This was probably the most pleasant interaction I've had since the first night I met Charisse. It's a nice change. Yeah, that means I'm definitely going to die in the near future. So, how does this work? Get into your sleepwear and make yourself comfortable. I sleep nude. Would the sight of a wobbly sausage put you off? I teased him. Tim shook his head and chuckled. I put on some sweats and a forgiving t-shirt. While brushing my teeth, I let go of what I learned and began focusing on what I still don't understand. I don't understand the whys of any of it. I don't understand what it plans to do with me once it's captured me, or even if it does plan to capture me at all. While flossing my teeth, I turned the button Mateo gave me in my fingers. Is this thing really that valuable? Money isn't really an object to me, so I never even entertained selling it. But it made me wonder, is this thing even safe for me to have? How many entities know that I possess it? How many entities want it, and what in God's name would they do to pry it from me? Despite my freshly developed trust in Tim, I decided to slip the button into my underwear. This thing is obviously worth more than my fleshy jewels anyway. May as well keep it close to my heart. My heart. I walked into the bedroom from the bathroom as Tim puts his phone away. The atmosphere has shifted notably, but I can't quite put my finger on what has changed. Sending over a Cerber tank? Wouldn't shock me if Adeline had a few of those just casually laying about. Tim gives me a weak nod. Everything cool? I asked. Yes. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm needed at my earliest convenience, which happens to rely when you decide to sleep. The pleasantry was gone. Rude isn't what I picked up, but I sensed nervousness. Yeah, alright. I slip into my bed, unshowered and unfettered by the fact. I'd like to offer a trade, Tim whispers. What? Knowing damn well where this was going.
The button for a vial of my sand. If your main reason for keeping the button is for defense, surely my sand would suffice instead.
I can sense desperation. He was right, though. I'm concerned about defending myself, nothing more. A vial of night-night, motherfucker, would be really useful. Who knows if the next entity I encounter would be so honest as Tim. I'm already a walking dinner motif. I would hate to brighten the target any further. It felt like a heavy burden by now. Something I would have to worry about only making my situation worse. Once I use it, it's gone. I couldn't really rely on the news of its use traveling as fast as news of its existence, so I could be hunted and shit out of luck once I do use it. It was just so much to think about, and it sounded like a liability more than anything now. No, I said, closing my eyes. This thing might get me killed, but it's not like much more is keeping me alive anyway. I appreciate the offer a great deal, and you're a good, hipster for being honest and generous. But surely you understand why I can't give it away. To be honest, I don't even understand why. But it felt right.
Okay.
Tim reached into his pocket and pulled out a pointed vial filled with yellow sand.
Take it anyway. I have plenty of it, and wouldn't feel righteous if I left here without sharing. Just remember when you wake up, there are good guys amongst us paranormal. Forgive me.
What And I blacked out. Now, this is the part where I tell you why I've been absent. Henceforth, I dealt with psychological warfare in my own mind in solitary. I suggest you discontinue reading further if you struggle with your own internal demons, your own invisible hell that only you suffer. It's ugly. Very ugly. I woke up on a white twin mattress in a white brick cell. I have no idea how long I was asleep, but I didn't feel rested in the slightest. It might have been because I woke up in a panic, I'm not certain. I didn't move, but instead looked at my surroundings first. Upon surveillance, I saw no windows. There was a large pipe with what looked like a shower head at the end, maybe 7 feet off the ground. There was a blanket, the toilet, a sink, no mirror, but most disturbing was the red door at the end of a 10-foot by 7-foot room. Everything was clad in white, save for that vermilion, eerie door. A door that would become my enemy and my only friend for 1 year and 3 months. I slowly sat up, my bare feet touching the cold floor. I kept my eyes on the door, unflinching at anything else. I stood up and looked my body over for any visible trauma. Nothing. Not one scratch, bruise, or even a sore muscle. Worse still, my button was gone. I didn't give myself time to access if I was grateful for its absence or devastated, despite all this. I seemed to be in a pristine condition, which surprised me given my new imprisonment. There was no written instructions, no voice to give me direction, not even so much as a threat. Silence. I walked over to the red door to examine it. I've seen enough horror movies to know that this door wasn't going to open. I came to the conclusion from a lack of a knob and the presence of 2-foot-long slot at a torso height. I wasn't getting out. I knew that. So instead of panicking about captivity, I decided to focus on length of my stay and was so sure it would be short. Adlin would save me. Charisse would save me. Someone would come for me. The first 3 days I remained silent. When the shower would turn on, I would take my time removing my clothes and enjoy the lengthy time provided to clean myself. 4 times a day I was given food through the slot. The first time I tried peeking behind it to see if I could get a look at my captor, but was disheartened to see nothing but darkness behind it. My warden took the most careful measures to ensure his anonymity.
I didn't bother speaking to them for a few days. I tried to be on what I assumed would be best behavior in a hostage situation. I had absolutely no upper hand, and I used that notion for survival. The food I was given wasn't what everyone would assume it would be. Healthy egg white omelets for breakfast on some days, sandwiches with lots of fresh produce, a followed-up snack of granola or beef jerky. Dinners ranging from chicken and mashed potatoes to even beef Wellington. You would think this would bring me comfort, but it didn't. The idea of a captor caring for you in some ways and allowing your sanity to slip in others was maddening. The first week wasn't so bad. I exercised, recalled some of my favorite books and movies to pass the time. I've even used my food as edible and messy Legos. Just anything I could do to hang on to the snapping strands of my sanity. On my 8th dinner is when I started to get desperate. I began screaming, begging to be let go, to be killed, to speak to anyone about anything, something. No one replied. Not for all 15 months. At least that's how long I found out I was held for. I've been lonely before. It was so easy for me. I've had years to practice being by myself. It wasn't loneliness. This was something entirely different and far more suffocating. My desperation grew. On the 13th dinner, a ribeye steak and asparagus, I couldn't beat it anymore. After throwing my dinner at the wall, I grabbed my knife and made to move toward my neck. I only felt a small kick on my throat, and a small amount of warm fluid traveling down my finger before passing out. One moment, I'm crying and ready to make my exit. The next is black. When I woke up, there was a large piece of angel food cake smothered in strawberries waiting at the slot. I sat up quickly and felt my neck for injury. I found nothing. There is no way I hadn't made at least a small cut. I felt the goddamn blood dripping. I'm certain of this. I wasn't crazy. I knew I wasn't. I also knew another thing. I was being housed by something that wasn't human. This was wolf influenza. That's the only explanation as to why injury didn't reflect on my body. The very same influenza that was used on me when I had a car accident 2 years ago. I broke down sobbing for what must have been days, as I refused to eat 29 of the different trays alternated through the slot. The 29th plate, the last one I could remember before I stopped looking at the slot. And that goddamn red door. This metal slab that prevented me from the warmth of any joy or even sense of contentment. It became a symbol of fear. Rage, hopelessness, authority, loneliness, helplessness. I couldn't even take my own life. I lost count of how many times I've tried. Every time I was met with resistance in the form of my care. My captor didn't even make an effort to prevent me from trying. Everything about this was cruel. There were absolutely worse things than death, and sometimes it's your very own mind. If I tried to starve myself, I would wake up feeling nourished. My crafty captor always made sure my physical being was well taken care of. But that was all. I couldn't even feel gratitude for that. It felt like I was being taunted. I cried, I screamed, I begged, I called for my sister, for Michael, for Adeline, and even my parents. I prayed, I slept, I meditated. I closed my eyes and forced images of people I loved into my mind so that I wouldn't lose that very last ray of solace. At some point, it got easier. Much easier. I was able to find joy in eating and recalling my happiest moments. I realized just how many amazing and precious moments I did have. I stopped yearning and started appreciating instead. On the very last day of my imprisonment, I received breakfast through the slot. The breakfast was far more extravagant than any meal prior. French toast, pancakes, spinach and mushroom omelette, bacon, sausage, bagels, donuts, fruit, just an insane amount of food. Though odd, I wasn't alarmed and indulged accordingly. When I washed everything down with the black cup of coffee, I heard a clunk and a hiss from the red door. It was opening. I sat extremely still. The only thing more terrifying than being locked behind the red door was whatever would emerge from the other side. Terror, a feeling long abandoned, returned as jagged as ice, surging through my hot veins and stealing the breath from my lungs. All the moisture in my body, my mouth, my eyes, my blood completely evaporated, leaving me a tense and stationary pile of vibrating bones. I couldn't blink. I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't tear my eyes away from the dark crack that was the open door. What? I managed to mutter when I saw a delicate hand with purple manicured fingernails pull the door open, accompanied by a familiar-sounding slithering. Hi, Jim. Adeline. In just a fraction of a second, my entire body exploded with the pins and needles of the long-suppressed feeling of hope. Tears came spewing out of my eyes as I frantically ran to her, hugging her tighter than what would have been deemed comfortable. Oh God, I've missed hugs. I've even welcomed the feeling of the little snakes piercing my tear-stained cheeks. Finally, she's here. How long? I asked with a throaty hoarseness from the lack of speaking as well as crying harder than I've ever cried. 1 year and 3 months, Adeline said, hugging me back. How did you find me? Who did this? I asked, holding her arms and looking into her creepy eyes. Jim, please sit down, she said quietly. No, please. You have to get me out of here. Where's Charisse? Did Tim do this to me? It hit me. Tim was the last one to see me. Last words I ever heard were, "Forgive me," from someone who put me to sleep before waking up in my personally tailored hell. Tim. The entity that was sent by Adeline. No fucking way. It was you! You did this to me! Tears fell from Adeline's face. Jim, please, I promise this was for yours. Don't you fucking dare! I can't! No, get me the fuck out of here right now! I don't want to hear your bullshit! Jim! Sounded another familiar voice. Charisse. Oh no. I put my hands on my head and cried. I bashed my head on the wall, punched at the door by Adeline's face. Why? You explain to me right now why you've kept me here dying in my own fucking mind. Alone. Not even so much as a fucking note. Sit down. Charisse put me in a chokehold, wrapping her legs around me. I know you've been through the ringer, Jim. I get it. But do you really think it was done to hurt you in any way? Do you really fucking believe that? I cried harder, but managed to shake my head. Okay. Charisse let me go and hugged me as well. All my energy and strength was gone. I laid limp, just crying into her shoulder. You guys, you're all I have anymore. I know. Will you let Adeline explain? Yes. I leaned against the wall and looked at Adeline, who seemed to be struggling to find a way to breathe herself. Jim, that Wendigo isn't happenstance, she choked out, slithering down in front of me, holding my hands. It's Wade. But we took care of that son of a bitch. Borg killed him. We burned his corpse. Yes, you did. But he left his host before you could truly end his life. Okay, I said, gaining my composure. So he jumped into a Wendigo? Yes, precisely. Adeline smiled through her tears. He can do that? This is the first case we've seen this happen. but it appears that it can happen. It's one thing when Wendigos are born. It's another for a damned spirit to take over its host, for an even worse. Adeline trailed off, visible fear on her face. So he's what? A super Wendigo? Jim, it's much worse than that. So much worse. He carried his own psychosis into a host that is born from carnage and revenge. He is one entity with twice the power and twice the, well, evil. There's been nothing more evil to roam these plains. Holy shit. So that's the reason for the high security containment I've been under? Yes. Adeline began to weep, hanging her head low. I grabbed her and said I know it was the shittiest truth I've come to learn. Thank you for saving my life. We all hugged, cried, laughed, and rejoiced for just one brief moment. A moment that passed far too quickly for me. Jim? Charisse began. We still haven't caught him. We've been spending this entire time of your lockup looking for him. The plague's been working tirelessly to find him, but we can't. Oh, Jesus. I know where this is going. We need help luring him. God. It figures that the moment I'm reacquainted with civilization, that it's merely to jeopardize my safety anyway. Just my luck. If y'all could just leave and shut the door behind you, that would be great. We all laughed. We were back. I don't know if I can say it was stronger or weaker than before, but it felt that much more precious. Alright. Shit, well, I stand up and stretch. What now? We're calling in all favors, Adeline began. We're gonna need supplies. Your iron nail, silver bullet necklace, melatonin sand. Your button? Yeah, give that back, please and thank you, I said, making the gimme hands. No, yelped Charisse. I'm hanging on to it. It's my precious. Give me the button, Charisse, I said with my hand out. Before I do, I get the button if you die, right? She said, holding the button to her cheek. I raised an eyebrow and extended my hand. I get the button, right? She said, wide-eyed, hands to her side. Stop wishing me dead and give me the damn remote. What? It's not like you're gonna need it if you're dead. Selfish, she said, handing the button back to me with a wicked grin on her face. No, I suppose not, but Tim gets the button if I die. He asked first. You're such a dick, Charisse laughed. All right, enough of all this, Adeline said, straightening her blouse. There's a car waiting for us outside. First stop is Alistair's.